Welcome back into HQ Spotlight. We'll get a new bracket from the committee tomorrow, but there are still conference championships, so this is how Brad Crawford sees it all ending up. No ACC chaos scenario here. A clean Virginia win and in. Also, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Alabama, the last three at-larges in the field. But there's a lot of blank spaces, and we are going to fill them out. Brad Crawford here. Joining us now, love to call him Brad Brackets this time of year. And Brad, this is what makes it fun, is we can debate all we want, who's in, whatever. They're in this hypothetical game. So now we're going to go through the winners. Let's start with a number 9 seed Notre Dame versus the 8 seed Oklahoma. Who is advancing to the quarters?
This is a great first-round matchup. I think Notre Dame will be one of the last at-large selections. Alabama's my 10 seed. I think Notre Dame wins this game in Norman. Oklahoma has been leaking oil the last few weeks. John Mateer has not looked all that great at quarterback. Brent Venables' team, Emily, is having trouble scoring touchdowns. And against Notre Dame, you've got to be able to win a shootout to beat the Irish. I like Notre Dame moving on in a relatively lopsided first-round game.
All right, elsewhere in the first round, it looks like Oregon will get that coveted 5 seed to play against the 12 seed, likely from the group of 5. And you got North Texas in that one. So who you got moving on?
Yeah, unless Drew Messamaker, quarterback for the Mean Green, has a 350-yard game at Outson Stadium, I think Oregon wins this game as one of 3 Big Ten at-large selections. Oregon obviously trying to make up for last season where the Ducks won the Big Ten, had the top seed in the playoff, and then lost in the Rose Bowl to Ohio State after that first-round bye. So Dan Lanning gets off the schneid and gets his first playoff win with Oregon.
Yeah, Mestamaker has had a lot of big-time games, but as you mentioned, not in a place like Autzen Stadium. Let's go to Virginia and Texas A&M. So Virginia is in this thing, which can eliminate that potential chaos scenario for the ACC, but how long do they stay alive?
Yeah, lots of talk about Duke potentially beating Virginia and Charlotte this weekend and sort of creating chaos. I don't see it happening. Virginia and Tony Elliott beat Duke 34-17 a couple weeks ago. I think they win the rematch as well and get that 11 seed. But this is where it probably ends. I mean, this is a really, really tough matchup for Virginia. And I just like Texas A&M in this game to bounce back from that loss at Texas during rivalry weekend.
This is where things get juicy. Alabama versus Ole Miss in the first round. We talk about what the committee might potentially do with Lane Kiffin leaving for the LSU job. What did you do in your mind when you were making this pick?
Yeah, a lot of storylines going into this game. You know, what does the committee, where do they place Ole Miss? Do the Rebels lose a first-round home game because of Kiffin's exit to LSU? Does Alabama beat Georgia and perhaps move into that top 4? I think Georgia wins Saturday in Atlanta. Alabama gets the last team in designation as the 10 seed. And then we see a shell of what we thought we've seen all season from Ole Miss, and Alabama, as the 10 seed, beats Ole Miss on the road.
All right, so the quarterfinal is officially set. Only 8 teams remain. Those teams are the first-round bye. Finally getting in on the action here, and boy, it doesn't get more helmet game than Notre Dame versus Ohio State. So who do you have moving on to the semis?
Yeah, if I'm Ryan Day, I wouldn't say I'm worried about this matchup, but if the bracket comes out and Notre Dame is in my same little area there and I got to play them in the second round, that's worrisome because the Buckeyes against Jeremiah Love, Heisman candidate, maybe he has a big game against Ohio State, but Ohio State's my top seed. They've been the overwhelming front runner in my eyes the last several weeks, and I've got Ohio State moving on to the semifinals.
All right, so if that is the helmet game, I'm calling this one the deep pockets game between Oregon and Texas Tech. So the Red Raiders are in, they get the bye, but how long does this fun last for them?
It doesn't last long for Joe McGuire's team. Obviously, very good defense, top 5 in the country in total defense, total efficiency on that side of the ball throughout the season. But Dante Moore in Oregon, that is a different breed offensively. Will Stein, the OC there, has been the guy for the Ducks the last few seasons, has cycled through quarterbacks, but Oregon still puts up explosive numbers. I think Oregon, in a semi-upset here as the 5 seed, beats Texas Tech, my Big 12 champion.
All right, so you have both participants in the Big Ten championship game getting that first round bye. Ohio State at number 1. You've got Indiana down at number 3. They face Texas A&M moving on from that first round. Who wins this one?
Tough matchup, but Indiana has played a tougher schedule despite A&M coming out of the SEC. Obviously, A&M's win at Notre Dame was huge this season. That's the sort of show-me moment and coming-out party for Marcel Reed. But when A&M has struggled, Marcel Reed in that passing game has kind of been in quicksand a little bit. They've had trouble protecting him. He's made some errant throws, had an interception against Texas. I think Indiana's defense, Emily, is good enough to shut down Texas A&M in this game, and I've got Indiana moving on, beating one of 4 SEC selections.
Okay, only so many SEC teams left, and they're playing each other. We have an SEC championship game rematch based on how you've done this seeding. It sounds like Georgia wins the SEC championship game. Alabama's still in the bracket, but how about this rematch?
For a third time this season, there's going to be a lot of naysayers in this game. Nobody wants to see a matchup 3 consecutive times, right? We're going to see it this weekend as well in Atlanta. I think Georgia, even though they lost in Athens to Alabama back in September, they win Saturday the SEC championship, and they beat Alabama in the quarterfinals of the playoff. I've got Georgia and Kirby Smart moving on to the semis.
So Georgia wins the rubber match, and then there were 4: Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Georgia. Only 2 spots left in the national championship game. So let's start with Big Ten v. Big Ten, a rematch from last year's postseason. Ohio State and Oregon. Who do you have moving on?
Yeah, you know Oregon will be amped for this one after what Ohio State did to the Ducks last year out in Pasadena. I was there for that game, was not pretty. I think it'll be much more competitive this time around. But Oregon, a little banged up on offense right now. There's some issues at offensive tackle. DeCorian Moore, Gary Bryant Jr., wide receiver, have missed the last couple games. Will they be healthy for this playoff run? That is a key factor for me. I think the Buckeyes and Julian Saying, another big game from Jeremiah Smith. They're 1 win away now after beating Oregon from winning another national title.
Wow, so Oregon got that 1 regular season victory, but 0 for 2 in the postseason against Ohio State, and the Buckeyes with a chance again to lift that title. Who will they be playing between Indiana and Georgia?
Speaking of rematches, this weekend in Indianapolis, we see Ohio State, Indiana. We're going to see it again in the national championship game. How about that for Kirk Cignetti, though? Going through a playoff bracket in year 2 with the Hoosiers of Indiana and getting to a final. I think Ohio State wins Saturday, and I think Ohio State wins the national championship game.
So we have the rematch, as you mentioned. Also, it will be the 3rd straight Big Ten team hoisting that national championship trophy. Will it be the same team from last year, Brad?
I think they go back-to-back. Ryan Day, start to finish this year, since they beat Texas, who was the preseason #1 in that opening game on August 31st. Ohio State has been the team to beat. Indiana, obviously no slouch either, right behind them in that elite tier, I would say. But I like Ohio State to win this game. I like Ohio State to win this weekend. And Ohio State is going to go front to back this season, unbeaten. Julian Saying, Jeremiah Smith will be holding up that crown on the podium.
Wow, okay. We've been doing this all season long, Brad, and you've been very consistent with Ohio State, so they have shown you no reason to think otherwise, but I'm excited to get round 1 this weekend between Indiana and Ohio State. Appreciate you going through that bracket for us. Let's see what the odds makers think. Yep, they agree with Brad. Ohio State is the favorite. You've got Indiana, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Oregon rounding out the top 5 in odds to win the CFP.